So I am going to talk today about piecewise functions again, but I'm going to talk today about piecewise functions because this now has 3 different parts to the function, whereas the last video I did only had 1. So in this video, we're going to continue to talk about piecewise functions, and we're going to show you what it looks like when you've got more than 2 parts of the function. So there are a couple different anchor points here. Remember we talked about anchor points last time, and we talked about how they're the numbers that kind of anchor each part of the equation. So the first anchor point is -3. So I'm just going to list my anchor points, okay? Anchor points, -3. Okay, and then I got 2 anchor points for the second one. They are -3 and 0. And I've got a third anchor point here, which is 0 for my last one. So those are going to kind of be my anchor points. They're going to be kind of where I start and finish my graphs. So let's look at each one. So the first one is -3, and that's for x, right? But in my first part of the equation, I do not see an x anywhere in there. So what does that mean? Well, remember, f of x just means y. So it's saying that y equals 4 when x is less than -3. So basically, anytime x is less than -3, so at -3, y is 4. At -5, y is 4. At -6, y is 4. At -1,000,000, y is 4. Every single time, y is going to be set at 4. Because again, we don't have an x to plug in our anchor point to. Okay, so the next one, I've got 2 anchor points. I got to make sure that I include -3 and 0. And I'm going to do it into -2x plus 1. Okay, so I'm going to include -3, like I said. Let's do -1 and 0. It kind of gives us a good spread of the numbers between -3 and 0. And then I'm going to plug those in. So -2 times -3 plus 1. So this would be -2 times -3 is +6 plus 1 is 7. -2 times -1 plus 1. So -2 times -1 is +2 plus 1 is 3. And last one, -2 times 0 plus 1. We know that that cancels, so we're just left with 1. And our last part of the function is -x squared. And my anchor point there, if you remember, was 0. So I'm plugging in 0, and then I'm picking numbers that are greater than 0. So 0, 1, and 2. So I'm going to plug those in. So negative times 0 squared. 0 squared is 0. You can't have a -0, so that's just 0. 1 squared is 1, but we got to make it negative. So -1. And then negative times 2 squared. So that'd be 2 squared is 4, and then make it -4. So there are all my pieces to my piecewise function. So let's graph them. So I'm going to start at the very top one here. So we've got at -3, 1, 2, 3, we're going up 4. And open or close circle will depend on this guy. He says open, so I'm going to make sure that when I draw it, I have an open circle there. And then -5, 4, and -6, 4. And I'm going to just draw that nice horizontal line right there. Okay, my next part is this part, and I'm going to plot those 3 points. So at -3, it's +7. Am I including it? Look back at my inequality. I am including it because it's or equal to. So I'm going to at 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to put a closed circle. And then at -1, I'm doing a closed circle at 3. 1, 2, 3. And then at 0, I'm going to do an open circle this time at 1. And those guys are going to connect. And the last piece to my function is the -x squared piece, so I'm going to plot those. 0, 0, it includes 0, going back to my inequality, so it's going to be a full circle filled in. And then I've got 1, -1, and 2, -4. This is a quadratic, so I know it should have a little bit of a curve here, so I'm going to curve it a little bit. And there you go. There is your piecewise function. So all three parts are your piecewise function on one graph. Hopefully, even though this is a little bit more of a tricky one, I wanted to go over one that included a couple of different anchor points so that you knew what I was talking about earlier.